right, we are back. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about the neck and how it attaches to the head and how it attaches to the body. Now, I told you that the neck was about as wide as the jaw, usually, unless the person is particularly muscular or has a really large neck. But also another good rule of thumb is that usually, if you want to see like how wide a person's neck is, take your pencil and hold it out in front of you and pretend like you're lining it up, your pencil up with their neck. And if you do, most of the time, it's usually going to be in between the eye and the ear, most of the time about halfway. And that's a good rule of thumb. But anytime you're drawing something, you should always take your pencil and hold it in front of you and line it up and just see if the neckline kept going straight up, where would it be compared to the eye and the ear? Now, the neck is going to be a little skinnier here, and it gets a little wider as it comes down. Now, the neck, we're going to make it come out just a little bit like this. Now, one mistake that people make is they want to take the shoulder and they want to make it come straight out from the neck and they want to cut it off on the page. They feel like they've got to squeeze those shoulders onto the page. Well, when you do that, you make it look like as if their arms have been cut off. It doesn't look natural. When you draw a face this large, usually the shoulders are actually going to go off the page. Now, if this face is really, really small, I hope it's not, because that would make it harder for you to draw, but then you would see all the shoulders. But in this case, we're not. And I will talk about how you can kind of figure out where the shoulders would be. The shoulders are going to come up a little higher than the neck, actually. The neck is set onto the body at an angle. The neck is actually a little lower than the shoulders. The shoulders are going to come down at a slight angle. And for the size that we've drawn, it's going to come down and it's going to go right off the page like so. Not a major extreme slant, but slight slant. Not a perfectly horizontal line, but just a slight slant. And I'm going to mirror that over here. Now, if you were actually drawing and the face was a lot smaller, what you would do is to figure out how wide the shoulders would be. And we ran out of room here. But if we had had room, what we would have done is we would have taken our pencil and we would have like put it in about the middle of their chest. And we would have taken our fingers and pinched the pencil right where their shoulder falls to the arm, like right where the shoulder ends and the arm begins. We would measure that distance. And like, let's say this is the middle of the chest and we pinched it off where the shoulder fell. We would take this pencil, what we've pinched off here, and compare it to the head. And we would see, where does the pencil tip lie? Would it lie at the eyebrows, a little above, a little more above? Wherever that line would be, we would come to our drawing and say, okay, on a real person's head, if it went from here to here on the shoulder and it matched from here to here on the real face, then we would come to our drawing and say, okay, that's where it was on the real face. We would take our pencil, put the point here, pinch it here, and say, okay, that's where the shoulders would fall off and become the arm. And that would give us kind of an idea of how big it is. And it's using siding. You're just comparing the size of the middle of their chest to where their shoulder falls to their arm and comparing that from the distance to the chin to wherever it hits on the head. And wherever it hits on the real person on their head, you would come to the drawing, measure that same one, and come over here. Now, let's talk a little bit about shirts. Well, before we do that, if we were drawing a guy, one thing you might want to notice is that guys have an Adam's apple. Usually they're going to have, you know, a little line here. Now, you may be drawing a girl, you may not be drawing a guy, but if you're drawing a dude, he's going to have an Adam's apple here. Girls don't have that, okay? And then if you want to make it look a little more three-dimensional, you can add a little bit of shading to the side of the neck. Again, if you want the shading to be good, keep your pencil strokes really close together and light, and it'll look more natural. And you might even be able to add a little more shadow to the neck to make it look like it's further back than the face. Okay. Now I'm going to show you how to draw a t-shirt line and how to draw a collar on a shirt. So let me start by going large first, and then I'll do it on here. Let's say that this is the neck, okay, and here's the shoulder. Well, what I would do is, and what I'm showing you right here is this part right here, okay. What I would do is I would let the t-shirt, it starts behind the neck, and it would come around like that. And then, if you want to do this on a separate piece of paper, you can. And then I'm going to put an extra line right here beside to give it a little thickness, and I want to have this go kind of flat like so. Now, I don't need this neckline anymore. I'm going to hide that. And I'm going to take this line and make it parallel to this one. It's going to look a little bit like a dog collar at first. But what this is like the neck of the t-shirt, okay? And then there's usually a seam where the neck connects to the shoulder, and there's usually a seam here, and you can put a couple little lines here to make it look like stitches. And then if you want to make this thing look round, give it a little texture, you can put a few lines like this, like so, and it'll make it look like it's round. And we could go in and add, a bunch more if we wanted to make it look like it's got that texture, okay? So what I'm going to do is right now, I'm going to go ahead and add a t-shirt to maybe like one side of my person here. And I'm going to start again behind the neck, and I'm going to start around and come down in front, and I'm going to take it down to here. And as far as like how much the neck is exposed, it depends on the t-shirt. Some people have like a V-neck shirt, some people have a rounded shirt. What you can do is you can actually measure the distance from their t-shirt line to their chin, and then compare that from the bottom of their chin and see, does it hit the middle of their bottom lip? Does it hit their mouth line? Does it hit their top lip line? That would tell you how low the t-shirt is on the person that you're drawing. Just simply compare the distance of this to somewhere else on the face and just see what's the same. Now, I've drawn this line around. I'm going to come around next to it, and I'm going to come down like so. All right? And then I'm going to make this line parallel to this line. I'm going to show kind of like the seam where the shirt meets the shoulder of the neck. I'm going to curve it a little bit, maybe add a little light stitching here. I could suggest maybe a fold or two in the shirt if I want to. If I want to show a little texture in the shirt here, I can by adding some lines. It's kind of neat to do that. Okay. Now this is a t-shirt neckline. Now what if they have a collared shirt? Well, that's not a problem. It's going to be a little similar to this. It's just going to be a little bit bigger. So let's start on maybe my bigger piece of paper. Let's say that their neck is here, okay? And let's say here's their t-shirt line right here, okay? Now, for the collared shirt, and the shoulder's going to be a little higher, the collared shirt is going to come around the back higher up, and it's going to come around and down a lot further onto the body, and it's probably going to create a point, curve like that. It's going to have a point to it. It's going to come back like so. Now, before I finish that, I'm going to come up here. Just like I made the thickness on this t-shirt, I'm going to add a thickness to this collar. It's going to come down like so. And then I'm going to connect it to here. And now it looks like I've got a collar, and I can come in and I can shade that, make that darker. I can attach this to the shirt. I can put maybe a little, stitch line here if there's one. If there's a button, I can put a button, make it kind of elliptical, and I can kind of make it look like it has a little bit of thickness, like a little cylinder, like so. And I can even make stitching on the shirt as I go. But this would give me an idea of kind of like what a shirt line would look like. It would also have a little line at the seam for the shoulder too over here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and add this onto here. And I'm okay, for your practice one, if you want to have a t-shirt line here and a collared line here, or if you want to make a collar and show some of the t-shirt, that's okay. It's okay if they're different because this is a demo, but I would like for you to finish the demo just so you can get the practice. So for the collar, it's going to come up higher on the neck than it did the t-shirt. It's going to be higher up. It's going to come down and around like so, okay? And then after we do that, we're going to come in and make a curve. I'm running out of room, so I'm going to make this kind of a smaller collar. It's going to start to come up this way, but before I finish it, I want to kind of put the thickness on here. So just like I had a line here for the t-shirt line, I'm going to have one here. It's going to start to curve around, but it's going to kind of drape over and hit here. And then I'm going to connect it up like so, okay? And I can go in and I can shade that. I can erase away the shoulder line. I can come in and put that little bit of a shirt. I can show this button, make it look a little bit like a cylinder. I can add in some stitching if I want. I can put in the shoulder line here, make it kind of curve a little bit, show some stitching in it, and that makes it look more natural. I can always take this t-shirt line and say, okay, my t-shirt would keep on going, and maybe it would come on around, and maybe it would come on around over here, and I could play around with the t-shirt line as well, okay? And that gives me an idea of kind of like what the body could look like. If it was a hoodie, it's basically the same idea. It would just be even higher. It would still curve around. It would still come over. It would just have a slightly different shape here. It wouldn't be as pointy. But you could do the same thing with a hoodie. It's just basically the same concept. Ultimately, you're drawing what you see. We're just trying to give you an idea of how to start it. Okay? Now, when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about hair. And if we have time in the same video, we're also going to talk about glasses and how those might look, and maybe a few other little things that will help you with the face, okay?